It just seems like the huge game against the Dolphins and the Bills ended, and we're already into another big game. Bengals are Super Bowl appearers. They didn't win, but they're still a tough team. They're at home. We're rocketing into this game. And Miami has a chance to go 4-0. This is a big, big game. But like I said to Dolphins fans and Bills fans, entering this game, there's a ton of context. Now, fans didn't want to say, oh, the Bills had context to their loss, mitigating circumstances with the injuries going in, the short week, and the heat on the sidelines. No, there's no mitigating circumstances. And I get that point. But then you're robbing the Miami Dolphins evaluation this week if you don't give them the same mitigating circumstances. And it might even be more. I mean, understand, after that insane game we all watched, the defense on the field all day, the next morning they had to wake up and go to practice and have 3 practices before they go against the Bengals, who are vertical offense. They can run, they can pass. Just imagine the bodies, the sucking out of energy, both emotionally and physically. If the Dolphins lose this game, you have to put rabbit ears on it. You have to add context, mitigating circumstances. It's not excuses, it's just a reality. Now, with these mitigating circumstances and this context, if the Bills had won last week, it would accelerate to their victory. Just like this week, if we go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals, that victory should have an accelerant. But if there is a loss, specifically the way I'm going to outline here, I'm going to talk about the keys and a lot of the circumstances why this is a game where you have to put rabbit ears on. If we lose, you have to go, okay, I got the evaluation, all this context here. Let me just put that on the shelf and watch the next couple of games and see how that correlates. Have to. These bodies. I mean, I did a podcast on the first half of the game, and I did all these graphics, like 50 graphics, and I'm like, I'm so tired at the end of the day. I'm tired, and I'm behind schedule. I can't imagine what it's like to wake up that Monday morning and have to go to practice after that game. And then no real rest. Then practice, game. Insane. So we have to keep that understanding. It doesn't always serve a fan's interest because they just want to feel good, but your team sometimes gets those rabbit ears, and so does the opposition. You have to put it both ways if you want to come to a fair evaluation. If you just want to fan out, then I get it. I did that for like 35 years, so I totally get it. But it's going to kind of cloud your observations and evaluations. Okay, so I'm not going to have graphics today because I'm tired. Long week last week, putting out podcasts and videos and all that stuff. I did videos this week, and I told you the graphics. I'm tired. So I got no graphics for you because I got to get this out because I'm behind schedule because unlike the Miami Dolphins players, Monday morning I couldn't get up and work. I had to take a day off. So I should have been brave like the Dolphins, getting up Monday morning and working. So I'm behind, so no graphics, so my apologies. But I will do my best to be coherent. Now, forget about Tua, forget about Burrow. They're going to come in, and especially if Tua is out. Well, if Tua is out, you got to focus on him because it could change everything. I mean, totally change everything. But if Tua is in and Burrow's in, they're the last piece of the puzzle, and I'll explain why. Now, also, before I get into the keys, the context, and my whole, blah, 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 I'm going to be on Mafia Sports Report Friday night at 9:30. We're going to talk about last week's Bills and Dolphins game. And then we're going to talk about the games coming up and obviously talk about this Bengals-Dolphins game as well. So come check us out over at Mafia Sports Report at 9:30 and see me continue to work on my life skills. Just bring grace. Okay, so I'm behind on my comments. I love my comments. I took that day off and it just threw me off. Comments to me mean everything. I mean, I'm reaching out to people. They're giving me their essence and their time and their thoughts. I'm going to get back to them. After I do this one, I'm going to sit down today, get to the comments. I just really was dragging this week, man. I just really felt Watching that game as a fan, watching the game as a fan stuff is really tiring. I forgot how tiring it was emotionally. It's really weird. It's so bizarre. 50-year-old, I still act like a kid with the game. So I'm going to get to those comments, so I'm sorry I'm behind. After this is recorded and put out, I'm going to get to them because I really do enjoy them. Going to have chapters here, so I don't know exactly what they are right now, but I'm going to try to make them coherent so you can get through it if you don't want to hear something, to help you guys out. I didn't have it last time because I was tired. And last part before I get into the whole thing, thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you for the likes, the subscribes, the comments. I really appreciate it. I love waking up in the morning, drink my half a pot of coffee and start digging into stats. And it's not, I'm wasting time trying to get to work, but I'm wasting my time studying football. I am actually studying football for work. And that's because of you guys and my sponsor, Ace Per Head. So I want to give them a shout out because without them and without you, show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. Put Tua and Burrow on the side for now. Focus on a tired Dolphins defense and an offense that needs to run the football. This defense is gassed. They're beaten. They are tired. Thankfully, after this game, they get 9 days or whatever rest. They need it. But they're going to need time of possession, numbers of plays to let them be on the bench. This offense needs to be very successful. Burrow, whether he's throwing picks or getting killed by the sack, puts on points. This offense is dangerous and vertical, and they go for the throat, I personally am concerned about Burrow's health. I think they should have a different philosophy sometimes, but they don't. They're just going for it. So they're going to put points on. And when I go over what this defense has done, you'll say, well, last week with the Bills, it's a little different. Okay? So, it could be. We'll get into that. But this defense needs to rest. This offense needs to run the football. And it's even more imperative and possible for the Dolphins to run the football with deep, huge, massive, elite nose tackle, A-gap plug, a DJ Reader out. And this ties into my Hunt study that I did last week because there is a real opportunity for us to attack the gut of this defense and get that run game open, which will open the flanks and keep this offensive role and defense on the sidelines. It was a key last week, guys. It was only about 4 plays, maybe 5 plays inside, but the value of that, in the play action, in the actual runs, all that stuff is vast, okay? But we don't have time to get into all that stuff. So, Kohu, he's been playing really, really good. And he's going to have a masterful, elite, deep receiving group that test his skills out. And that is my key. I am looking for this kid to see how he plays when he matches up with a quarterback like this, with a receiving group like this, that is going to attack no matter what. So he's a key for me, and I'm going to do a film study on him after this game. I've been waiting to see how it plays out because it's very easy to go, this guy's, and then for a couple games, and then the film comes out and they catch up and he goes nowhere. But he's going to be a big key. X with the groin. Chase is going to be on him. And you can see sometimes he struggles with speed. He's fast, but that groin sucks things up. That sucks away some of his speed and his acceleration and his changing of direction. So that's going to be interesting too. Holland, along with X, those picks. Burrow throws picks. Not all his fault. The guy's getting his snot beat out of him. I meant to write down the stats. It's brutal. It's almost unfair. I'm feeling like Luck again. It's just not right for a guy that talented and a good guy to get the snot beat out of him like that. But for us, X and Holland, those picks are going to have its weight in gold and then wrapped in platinum. We're going to need those, and they're going to be available. Holland missed that big pick last week that probably could have just sealed the game. He's going to have to get his hands on the ball or X and then make that happen. Now, Rowe and Needham's been struggling. One of these guys is going to have to deal, or whether it's somebody in the secondary is going to get this third receiver with Higgins, Chase, and Boyd. All three of these guys could start. All three of these guys could start on any team, and they're going to really test this secondary. That, despite what we saw last week, they've struggled. They've struggled for many reasons, but they have struggled. But they get the chance this week. And Hurst, he could be a little bit of a problem, but I think Rowe can cancel him out. Now, the talk all week was Eli Apple versus Hill. They got Hilton and Awuzie. Hilton's a really good nickel guy. Awuzie's a really good cornerback. They got a good secondary, and they play nickel a lot. So Von Bell, he's a good safety. They got Bates, he's a run stopper. But they also got a good coverage linebacker in Wilson, and that's going to play a part too, because a lot of times we've been able to attack the inside, that corner zone between the corners, safety, and where the linebackers cover. And so this guy's going to play a pretty good role. He's a top 30 covering linebacker. And so we have the edge, obviously. We got Sheffield. Ingold is another guy. He's had some seriously big plays, and he's becoming a little bit of a mismatch. It will be interesting to see how he plays out, because I think he's going to play a big part because he is able to catch and get out there, and he is really popped on the film, and he's going to be a focus for this defense. But, Hill, Waddle with the groin, he's looking a little bit dinged. I don't think it's too much, but you got to watch out with these things. Gesicki's a late clock guy, and that's why the run game and pass protection is going to open it up for him and make it dangerous as we get deeper into this receiving group for the Bengals to handle us. They're going to have to get pass rush, but I'll get into that in a second. Now, Wilson, too, he's another guy. We haven't really seen him dominate yet, but they're waiting, I think, to break this guy out. So we have the tools, but they got some quality tools, and you know where this is going to come down to. It's going to come down to pass rush. Now, Jonah Williams, I've been watching him for a few weeks. Did a study on Burrow a couple weeks ago. He's terrible. I'm not terrible, but this is not the left tackle that you want. He gets Ulayed like all the time, even run attack, pass attack. He's going to be a major key, along with Leo Collins, if he plays with that bad back. Agba, Ingram, which is amazing, is going to have really strong advantage over these guys. They get beat on so much speed. They get beat on the spin. They get beat on the power. They've really struggled this season. And so the edge, and this is a point I want to get to. It's a concern. Why didn't I say Phillips? Now, Phillips has got a little bit of pass rush pressure, a little bit. But he is having a major sophomore slump, especially in run defense. Now, Van Ginkel, he's not Phillips. He doesn't have his ceiling, but he's only had 27 snaps. But this guy is the great Chinese wall when it comes to the run game. And the Bengals aren't going to run a lot. They're going to do draws. They're just, I don't know. I don't know what's with them. But they got two good running backs, Perrin and Mixon. So it could play a part. Phillips was exposed a couple times with some missed tackles, and the long run, I believe, was on him. So he's got to really step up. We're going into game 4, 25% just about of the season's past. And I'm talking about Ingram, and I'm talking about Agba. And, he's got to start coming into the conversation. But both these guys are going to be able to pressure the edge. Karras, who we seem to not want in 2020, and I don't know why, he's one of the top centers in the league, and he's doing great, and he's a wall with Kappa, who came from the Bucks. These guys are the foundation. Now, Volson, the rookie, he's not playing too bad, but he's another major key. The edges you can kind of work with sometimes because Burrow's able to step up and get up there. But if Volson gets gobbled up by Sealer, Agba, Wilkins, it's going to be a long, long day. That interior straight pressure in the A and B gap is brutal on a quarterback, especially the A gap pressure. And that's where he's going to be manning. So it'll be very interesting. He's my first key. If he can hold up along with Karras and Kappa, who will do pretty well, that exterior pressure might start getting there a little too late. So that left guard is going to be key for the Dolphins and the Bengals. Now, they run a 3-4. And that's going to put pressure on our exterior runs. And when they had DJ Reader in the center, oh, man, this is still a good defense. But this guy is an animal, 6'3", 347, probably more than that. And he's not getting moved. He's one of the best players. He's the best player on this team besides Burrow. On defense, he's clearly the best player. And then you probably have, I would say, Burrow, Chase, and then Reader. And he's not in. Hopefully he comes back. They're saying he might be gone for the season. That would be terrible. This guy is so much fun. He's just a monster. But now that he's out, and we have Connor Williams at center and Hunt at right guard, you got BJ, what's the guy's name? BJ, Hill. I'm getting tired. Got BJ Hill there. He's a big guy, and he's a quality player, but he's not DJ Red. Who's going to fill that spot? They got Tupoa, whatever the guy's name is, like a rookie or a young guy. He ain't cutting it. And they got, what's the other dude? Sample. He's pretty good. But that interior of the Bengals defense is going to be critical with Hendrickson and Hubbard on each side. The exterior, that's going to test Little. And not really my man, Tehran, even with the injury. So that right side with Little is going to be tough for us. But we've got to be able to run inside. And Hunt played such a good game. And, a real small comment was like, well, you got to add context. They didn't have Oliver in and they didn't have Phillips because I was raving about his play. And that's a great point. It really is. But without expanding it too much, he went against average to above average players and dominated them. And that's what he's going to see this week. And that's what he's going to see most weeks, really. And Connor is excellent. His main attribute is the run blocking along with Hunt. And if they can move guys out and get those interior runs, it's going to start sucking things up, sucking the safeties up, and then that's going to expose them and it's going to run the clock. This A-gap, B-gap attack by the Miami Dolphins run game should, in my vision, play an absolutely key role, and that's going to come down to Eichenberg not totally screwing up and Hunt having another good game along with Connor. So this is where I'm really focused on. Now, Miami, thankfully, on defense, they've only had 11 penalties, all year. And Xavier added that one dumb one. So they're consistent. They're not going to beat themselves what it looks like at this stage. Now, since he's not too bad, they've got a little bit more. It's not like they're a sloppy defense. But Miami's going to have to be smart and not beat themselves because his defense is so tough. And again, it's why the run game and why Miami controlling the clock's going to be critical. Now, the Dolphins are 19th in run defense and Cincy 8th. So, but you take DJ Reader out and that changes that 8th. And again, this really shows why this interior run game and McDaniel's shown to be a guy who will attack with the run and attack with run diversity and look diversity. And this is critical. Now, Dolphins run crazy amount of pressure, but they don't really get much pressure. Cincy doesn't really bring much pressure, but they don't really get much pressure either. So, neither one of these guys, you might say, some of that is a little bit of a misnomer because Allen kind of altered that a little bit with his movement skills, and he had so many passes and that dilutes it a little bit. But Miami generally struggles to get pressure. Last week was a little different case. We'll see if that continues. But the first 2 weeks, it really wasn't there. So it's going to be obviously critical to get pressure on Burrow because that's how you get him to make mistakes. So we're going to have to see. We had the first 2 weeks of no pressure, and then we'll see if that trend changes with the Bills game and this week, although you got to keep that context. So missed tackles, though, Dolphins have 21, since he doesn't really have many with 12. And yard after the catch, Miami's third in giving up yards after the catch. And since he's 17th. So they're a little more conservative. Yak is going to play a big, big part. You cannot miss Chase. It can go right to the house. And this team could really deflate with some early scores. So it's going to be critical. The Dolphins, they get that football. They drive down the field. They do all their usual stuff, the misdirection, all this other, and trying to get the passing. But they've got to get that interior run. They've got to get some run game, and I don't see it happening on the edges. And then they cannot miss tackles because they've given up so much yak. And Chase is he's in the Hill and Waddle category. And same with the Bengals, but they don't have the same tendency as the Dolphins. Then, obviously, Tua. Tua is in, we have a shot. If he's not in, I don't see us having a shot with Teddy. And I know people talk about, we're going to just score 50,000 points up and down. And we haven't really yet, except for that one quarter. So this will be our opportunity to blow the doors off this team and show that, okay, we've had 4 weeks of the season. If Tua is in, we run the interior. We suck them up. They're missing Reader. They've got not a great secondary. So we should take our very deep and elite receiving group and win the day through them because I don't see the defense doing it, except for those big picks. But I can't admit, if they do. Anyway, so that's my keys to the game. Interior runs is going to be a big, big deal. I believe Tua is going to play, and it's good for his legacy and image because injury knock is the only one that's really left on him. Big game, guys. Very interesting game. I'll have post-game coverage. Give your team a little bit of context. Give them a little sympathy if they lose. If they win, though, given this short week, guys, I'm raising the ceiling. And I'm not lowering it if they lose because of this context. And that's a key thing. So anyway, have a great day. Enjoy the game. Remember to catch me if you can at Tommy's over Mafia Sports Report on Friday at 9:30. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the game. Let's hope for a win. Go Dolphins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with AceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.